Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact Video Series. My name is Ryan Duffy, and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to talk about one of the many maps that we have in our collection, but one that's very unique and very special to us, and that is a map from 1962 that was created by Perrysburg Historian Eber Russell of the entire Iroquois Nation in New York State. Now this map was created by Mr. Russell using previous and older maps in which he used the details from those and then added his own details from his over 50 years of research in order to fill in all the Iroquois names for nearly every natural landmark and village and other important site that was used by the Iroquois throughout New York State. And we are stretching all the way from Lake Erie to Long Island, so the entire state. Now this map was created in 1962 by Mr. Russell, and he only made about a dozen copies, and we have one here at the museum. Now there are some across the state. The Onondaga Nation has one, and there is one at Harvard, but we have one here right at the Holland Land Office Museum, and as you can tell, it's a very large map. Now Mr. Russell was using research done by Ely Parker and Louis H. Morgan, Mr. Parker being a local Seneca chief that was born here in Indian Falls, and Louis Morgan was an anthropologist from the Rochester area, and they worked to create maps in the 1850s to show how widespread the Iroquois culture was in New York State and its important sites. And we actually have a copy of that map as well that was done in 1851. So the map we have here is what was done by Parker and Morgan in 1851, and it shows the Iroquois nations about 1720, so before major European settlement in most of New York and before the conflicts such as the French and Indian War and such. So it gives a good baseline for how the settlements were derived and where they were located before our modern names came in. However, Mr. Russell took it one step further and not only noted where the settlements were, but also any streams, rivers, other important sites, and even some of the mythology and history of the tribes. And gave us the names that were used by the Iroquois for all these places. So it is not only a map of New York State and the Native American culture that was here, but also brings that culture directly to us and shows us where names of our towns and other places have come from if they have some origin in the Iroquois language. So here we have some up-close images of the map of the Haudenosaunee, which was the people of the Longhouse, or as we know them, the Iroquois. And in this, Russell lays out a little bit where he got his information. And when he did it, this was actually given to Dr. Swayze in Batavia, who was an avid map collector, and he's the one who gave it to the museum. The first portion here shows the Seneca area, and even you can point out portions that map out Batavia, which was Duangawa, or place of hearing. There's also the village of Tonawanda, which was near Bushville, Pembroke area. Then we move up into the Onondagas and the Oneidas, which is more in the Finger Lake, Syracuse area. And then finally up into the Mohawk Nation, which was the Adirondack Mountains, and it even has a little picture of the stone giants, which were part of Iroquois mythology. And then as we move into the southeastern part of the state, you can see other tribes that were sort of affiliated with the Iroquois, but were actually Algonquin in origin, and also the Tuscarora, who are one of the 6 nations who eventually are forced to move into our neck of the woods, and finally ending even with Long Island. So from these images, you can see how detailed Mr. Russell got with pointing out Native American sites and names throughout New York State. Mapping out not only villages, but streams and rivers, even just important places, as well as sites of mythology, as he even talks about the stone giants, the Viking ship that made it into Lake Ontario, and even the mighty sea dragon that arrives in the lake, that are all important pieces in Iroquois mythology. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of our artifact video series. And again, if you've missed any of the past, be sure to check them out on our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum. And we've got a whole playlist of them. There's over 60 videos now, so there's plenty to choose from and check out. But be sure to check all those out as well as any other videos on our YouTube channel. And it never hurts to like the videos and subscribe so you can be notified even earlier when they come about. But the best way to learn more about these artifacts is to stop on by the museum. We'll be happy to tell you in person and show them up close and personal more stories about them than even what we've told you here.